All right, back on the Amplified Truth with Don Odom Jr., and we are with the Amplified interview. And I'm honored, pleased, and proud to have Reverend Dr. Rudy Rasmus. So I understand you just got your doctorate recently.
Just got it, 2019.
How does that feel on the other side of
Man,
that?
when I got it, man, when I started, it was the first time I'd been able to just really stop. I actually started taking attention deficit medicine when I started that degree. Man, it's amazing. At Ritalin, man, that stuff really helped me, man.
We have a similar story, man.
It did. So I bounced off the wall my whole life, and you figure at 61, I started the degree. 60 I started the degree. 63,
Good for you.
I finished up, and it was the first time in my life that I've really been able to concentrate. So it was really good.
Nice. We have a similar story, and so, I'm willing to bet that was something that that you appreciated maybe even more so than most. And for those that don't know, can you share your journey that you've lived a couple of different lives, I'm sure in your mind, but prior to becoming the co-pastor of St. John's Church downtown, what was your journey into the ministry, for those that don't know?
Man, I have so I was raised to never trust preachers and church people, which really puts in a perspective. If your old man tells you, like, hey man, don't trust them damn preachers, and watch them church people too. But his the addendum to that statement was, but hey bro, we don't play with God. Okay. So the people connected to God, we didn't really mess with, but we had a good solid reverence for the God of my father's understanding. Okay. So I had to, I kind of had to take my own journey as it relates to ultimately getting to where I am today, and where I probably made the turn 30 years ago. But for the most part, man, my journey started at a little Baptist church in Houston over in the Heights. And I remember, really being fascinated by the pomp and circumstance, but not really seeing the connection to power as related to the experience. So as a result, I never fully respected the religious journey, the religious process. So ultimately, I just went on a journey looking for the power, and that immediately took me out of that little church, and that faith of my mom's, and the cursory faith of my dad's, as I moved forward. So I literally became agnostic, at 12, 13 years old. And then, I finished high school at 16 and ended up in college. And I'm up at North Texas, in Denton, Texas. Man, I meet a cat named Leslie White, who becomes my spiritual guide, my guru in Buddhism. Okay, so I take this little journey into Buddhism, man, and I get like super peaceful, and I smoke a lot of weed, and it's like a real interesting journey. I ended up graduating from college at 19, and sort of immersing in what I call the hustle in Dallas, but a corporate hustle. Started in banking, left there, but one of my close buddies, a guy formerly named Lorenzo Williams, changed his name to Jelani after he got a PhD from Temple University in Philadelphia in African ancestral religion. Okay,
Wow.
Right. So Jelani basically early '80s introduces me to this whole new experience of religion. And so I'm studying, Egyptology and looking at ancestral religions. And then, man, the most fascinating thing happened. I'm moving through life, and in 1983, I meet a sister at this funeral. I'm captivated immediately. And I didn't know fully why I was captivated, but ultimately I came to understand that I was captivated because I was really caught by her one, her morality,
Mm.
and two, her faith experience. So much so that we started dating, man. And back in those days, I'm like really in the streets back in those days. And in the streets, there was an experience that I would have often. I call it the voice. Okay, those are air quotes. The voice, and the voice would literally tell me which way to go, what to do, and who to hang out with. Well, the voice in this particular situation said, "Don't do anything that would ever cause this woman to not trust you."
Wow.
Now I'm thinking, So we had dated, a couple of months, mostly just lunch and dinner, nothing heavy. But one evening, the voice tells me that really clearly, and I knew that was going to be the last time I was going to see her, possibly forever. So we went to dinner. I dropped her off. The next day, uncustomarily, I didn't call her. She didn't call me. I didn't realize on the other side of that equation, her fate was telling her, this is not the guy. All right. The voice is telling me, don't do nothing to harm this woman. Her faith is telling her, this is not the guy. So we part, we don't contact anymore. I don't see her for another year. At the end of that year, Don, this is crazy. At the end of the year, the voice comes back and says, call her. Invite her to lunch to see what happens. Called her, we went to lunch, boom. And about 6 months we were married. And that's when she took me to church. And that's when my journey really started.
Wow.
Yeah, 1985.
Interesting. And so, what's fascinating about that, I share a similar story from the standpoint of that voice that you talk, that guide. We have a choice to listen to that. I can override that voice. And I feel that that's where spiritual growth happens. It's a sequence of, okay, God, I trust you, for whatever reason, you've developed some credit with me, but every time I make a decision like that, that's when, okay, maybe he's ready. And that's what that sounded like in that circumstance. The guy's just like, okay, maybe he's ready. He's listening. Yeah. So that's a beautiful story, man. And you guys have been married for 38 years, right? Or 34,
35.
Sorry. 35. Okay, 35 years.
Now. Yeah.
And you,
1985.
What I think is beautiful is that you co-pastor, and you make it very clear that she is your co-pastor. And so, that's an interesting, you don't see that a lot. And she is clearly your partner. How do you have a different dynamic than most, pastors and churches?
First of all, I'm old school, and being old school, you honor the people who jumped you into the game. You don't disrespect the people who guided you into a significant place in life. It's that's an old school concept though. So I would say Juanita brought me into this faith encounter, this faith experience. She modeled the kind of consistency in and around her faith that I had never seen before. And like I was telling somebody not too long ago, I say, man, if she is astute enough to have the practice before I knew a practice existed, she is capable enough to do in this particular work whatever I'm doing. And so really, it's just honoring her gift and the graces that she has been really bestowed on with by honoring the position that she is rightly deserving and has earned. So yeah, for us it was never a question, man. Now, I am, Don, probably one of the most radical theologians you're gonna interview
I
on your
love that I
podcast.
love that you speaking my language, so it's not anything, when you come to learn what I'm
Ever.
preaching. So, but
So,
progressiveness, and I
yeah,
understand that it hasn't always been the case, and in the Black church, especially, women have not had a place until, this generation, and so, I honor that in you, but I know that has probably rubbed some people maybe the wrong way, but what has been your experience? In being progressive and pushing forward. There's a quote that you have that I love that I read a little bit later about, not wanting to be a part of an institution that marginalizes a person based on race, abilities, gender, orientation, identity, or social status. Um,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
powerful to me.
yeah, man. So I really hang out in and around that space. And this is what I really understand as as my personal theological preference. Um, when I moved into this work, I moved in with a blank slate. Okay, which means I didn't really have the the preconditions that maybe many of my colleagues might have. I came in with a background of having owned and operated a motel where we rented our rooms by the hour. So if we look at practice as location or place, then my practice was in a place that accepted unconditionally every combination or form in the human condition, right?
Mm.
So every time someone rented a room from me, I literally was inviting someone into my house. Okay, so I did that for many years, and I would tell folk all the time, there's no way on earth that I could literally invite people into that house without conditions.
Mm.
Okay, and come to this new house that I'm responsible for and start placing conditions on top of folk in order to come in. I said,
Mm.
no way.
Mm.
So along the way, man, I am radically left leaning, radically inclusive, and over the years, I think if I let me give you some metrics. Okay,
Mm.
so I've been at St. John since 1992, and my dear friend Kirby John Caldwell actually gave my wife and I an opportunity as his assistants, not associates, but assistants at Windsor Village back in the early days, right?
Mm.
So 92, he gets he gets an opportunity to take on a new location in downtown Houston. Well, from that moment, he gives me the keys and says, "Go check it out."
Mm.
Well, I went and checked it out, and when I went to check it out, I said, "Hey, this is going to be great." So I get there on my first day. I drive up to in front of the building, and I get out my car and I look over behind the church, and there are probably 50 men, mostly men, some women, waiting on a meal from some missionary out of North Houston that came every Thursday evening. They're sitting there, about 50 people, waiting on a meal behind a church that's closed. Okay, so I get there and I drive up and I pick up that big cell phone that I had in 90, we call
The
them
big
mobile
brick.
phone. Call my wife. I say, "Hey, baby, this is the place."
Hmm.
And what that really meant, Don, was I think I have finally arrived at the place I was born to serve.
Wow, it's powerful.
Yeah. So I walked through the door, man. There's a cat laying at the door. And as the story goes, and this is more the story, all of the folk laying at the door, we brought in with us. And they became, our security,
Wow.
and they
You
became
started with 9 people, right?
9 people, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so for those that don't know and aren't familiar with Houston and with the church, so where St. John's is situated, it is under an underpass that is right at the border of downtown Houston and Midtown, and it is um, there's a homeless population that is in Houston that is literally next door. It is right outside of the front door of St. John's, and what Dr. Rudy has done is built up an entire infrastructure, in this area. They have the Bread of Life, and I read that you got, how many people do you think you're serving meals to, hot meals, and I have so many questions about right now because I know that
Yeah.
this is a desperate time, and there's never been a bigger need for you to serve the community in that way. How what's the volume of people that you're serving through that charity?
So, so we started out serving hot meals in '92, and we basically served hot meals about 500 a day for about 22 years.
It's impressive.
And we're approaching year 29 now, but uh, so 22 years we served a lot of food, hot food, to a lot of hungry people. But what happened, Don? Demographics shifted in and around downtown, and in that demographic shift, we had something new to happen, and that is individuals with kitchens became a bigger sociological challenge than individuals who were hungry. So there were a lot of places for hungry people to eat, but not a lot of food for people with kitchens that didn't have any money.
Hmm.
So we shifted our mission from hot food to fresh groceries. So now, right now through this pandemic, we're seeing maybe 1,100 families a week that we're distributing 20 to 30 tons of food, actually fresh produce to, on a weekly basis, 2 times typically per week, or 2.5 times per week if we do another event off campus. So if we take all of the current activity that we're involved in, we are literally impacting thousands, multiple thousands of households on a weekly basis with basic necessities.
Hmm.
Now I'll tell you this, man. Since the beginning of the pandemic, since March, in our food line, for instance, we used to serve, distribute the food hand to hand.
Hmm.
There'd be a long line of individuals, and those individuals would get a box. Now there's a long line of cars, and those cars get a box in their trunk. We do this contactless,
Yeah, much safer.
they're much safer distribution. And in that process, man, the one thing that I think your listeners and viewers should know, that is the model of the cars are getting newer every week.
I get it. People that usually would not be in a line to get food, you're starting to see that, and that's a good segue into how how have how have you seen your church affected? And I know that this is just a unique time in history. Have you ever had, not even close, have you ever had to close church, for more than 1 or 2 Sundays before in your
Yeah,
career? You've never had to
the
close the church?
only the only time we closed church was the Sunday following Hurricane Harvey.
Harvey, okay.
Yeah, that was the only Sunday we'd ever closed.
But then you played a pivotal role in distributing need and relief and help in Harvey. So you still at least had the church community. You've never been in a situation to where you had to close the church, and this episode is about mental health and about how
Yeah.
people are coping with this. What has the impact been on your flock and
Oh
and
yeah.
and
Whew. That's good, man. So let's we segue to the impact. Um, so the impact of natural and human disaster.
Hmm.
this one being different from anything we've ever really tackled before. Natural disaster, we're veterans, you name it.
In Houston for sure.
Yeah, Allison, Ike,
yeah.
Rita, you name it, okay? But in Harvey, the water dries up, the sun comes out, the streets clear, and people move back into their daily routine. With this COVID-19, I have been in many conversations with local researchers, and now we are part of the researching arm of in terms of outcomes in Houston. And what we are finding is loneliness and isolation are the two most prevalent factors in this very moment. Now, if you compound loneliness and isolation with poverty, with some actual economic desperation, then you have loneliness, isolation, and despair. And if you put those three together, you've got people dying, man, from causes that that might go on the coroner's report as
something else, right?
As something else, But in actuality, when I'm gonna tell you now we are, we're veterans of the struggle, you and I. And the one thing you and I know is heartbreak can do more damage to the human, to the body.
Yes.
Than
a physical
anything.
Condition. Yes. And that's interesting you bring that up, because that's where, and what I think is fascinating is I miss it, I've lost everything before because of, my disease and using and even circumstance. And so I've dealt with isolation. I've dealt with having to start over again. I've dealt with having to, kind of rebrand myself. So while there's, I have my challenges and I'm in meetings almost every day and I'm active, I have that outlet for people that have never dealt with something like this to this extent. It's a shock to the system. And when you layer on top of that, what happened with George Floyd, the timing of that, the emotional toll that takes is not really, I've struggled to describe that and done my best to explain to people who aren't Black what that feels like, just the kick in the gut that you get when you see a video like that. When people, in my opinion, it's yes, we don't want to see people murdered, but the real sentiment is we know that they're going to, the press, the presumption is that they're going to get away with it, and that takes an emotional and physical toll. So domestic violence is up, and obviously I hear it and see it in meetings. People are struggling with substance abuse problems. What can someone that has never had recovery, that has never reached out for mental help, how do we bridge that gap in the Black church, in the Black community? I don't know that there's ever been a time where it's been needed more. How do we reach people that don't know how to put their hand out for help?
Man, so let's say the best way would be through people like yourself, people who have been through something, or moving through something, and working to get to the other side of something. And I think so your platforms like this, I think are critical during a time like the one we're in, which is why when somebody says, let's talk, I stop all the other little busy activities and I talk like I'm doing right now. I think there are resources that that you can expose our community to through your platform. I think NAMI is one.
We're about to talk. Yeah, we have Brother Preston. We're going to do a roundtable on that in a second. He's waiting.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, NAMI's one. And I think there are some, of course, the intergroups and fellowships of Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex Addiction Anonymous groups. I think all of the resources that are available in the town right now, especially for individuals who don't have resources for a private therapist. I think now is a time to reach out. I think resource, platforms like yours and ours, of course, if you called our church, there are a couple of folk who are going to pick up the phone who have that job because they have compassion as gift, and if you don't get the compassion that you're expecting, you hit me on a direct message on Instagram, and I damn sure will get it straight. Yeah. But I'm easy to find. I'm Rudy Rasmus on IG, and that's the platform I monitor every day.
I was just about to ask that, and that's a beautiful thing. What's the number that they can call at the church if they wanted to reach out?
713-659-3237. That's 713-659-3237. And but if somebody experiences something here, hears something here, they want more info, direct message me, and I'll make sure you get the resource you need. I haven't had a secretary, an assistant, an adjutant, and in 18 years.
Wow. So, hey, God is showing you that voice is still guiding you. Clearly, I need to learn from you because it's a lot being put on my plate. But and so I wanted to, one of the things I've been really wanting to talk to you about this week about along the same lines of getting help and mental health. What I have experienced and run into is there's a misunderstanding about 12-step recovery and sobriety within the Black church specifically. I think in general, we have, and when Brother Preston we're going to I wanted to have a roundtable discussion just about why it's so difficult culturally for us to reach out for help and, the things that are behind that. But when it comes to 12-step recovery, there's a misconception that it's not Christian, that there's just a plethora of things that people don't understand. And I was one of those people. My story, I came into AA kicking and screaming. I didn't want anything to do with it. And something happened. And I think in my opinion, it's a unique template because it's the only place, even right now, in the midst of all of this racial strife and everything that's going on. It's a place where it's really a band of brothers and sisters that have survived, a common peril. And so can you speak to what your experience has been with it and just, how God is in the rooms and that there's this misconception, and I know it's attraction, not promotion. So I'm not trying to sell the program, but I just feel like there's so many people that could benefit from the program in the church.
So watch this, man. 1992, we start work. Okay, we start this ministry. In 92, I had never known anyone who had been getting high but died sober. Okay, 92. So I go through my whole life, and everybody I've ever known that had gotten high also died high. So I get to this church, and one day a young lady showed up, and she said she was in recovery. And then subsequently, some brothers, one who just passed on, his name is Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams was a member at Windsorville that she had been sober for a while and had started this recovery program at Windsor. some meetings on Saturday nights at Winston Village. Daryl comes downtown with us and starts a meeting on Wednesday night for predominantly homeless men and women who were, in those days, in the 90s, were homeless as a byproduct of mostly addiction. It's a different ballgame now. It's a different reason people are homeless now. But Daryl really started introducing me to people who were in recovery. What recovery? Man, what the hell is that? That's what I'm thinking. So before I know it, we create this welcoming, safe room where people in recovery in the 90s, who mostly were addicted to crack cocaine, found their way into the room and found a place where they could not only practice their recovery, but they could also reconcile with their creator without judgment, So here we are, early 90s, our room literally fills up with recovering people. And that's when I began to really learn about life, early 90s. So here's the deal. And I know we got to get Preston on. Here's the deal. What recovering people taught me was, first of all, I was a dry drunk. That's what they told me. Rudy, you're a dry drunk. Okay. I said, so.
Okay. Explain that for people that don't understand what that means. That means basically you're not putting anything in your body, but there's no emotional sobriety, and all the things that you're the things that were making you use in the first place are now on full display, right?
On full display. That's
right.
So I was a dry drunk, man. It's I wasn't using anymore, but I still had all of the the
selfishness,
all of that.
Right.
So guess what they did, man? They started confronting me and started demonstrating what recovery really looked like for everybody. I said, oh, okay. So I start the process along with everybody else. And this is what they taught me. One, I have to face my own trauma and terror for myself without blaming anybody else for it. Number two, I had to practice some real humility in the process. I had to literally park my ego in all of that other crap that I thought made me me, and began to really see another way. And number three, I had to be transparent in the process. So you figure those folk in the early 90s shaped the Rudy that's a pastor today as this guy who has written his whole journey in 3 books, who has consistently reminded people of who he was and who he's trying to be. And I guess lastly, trying to love people in the process, on the way, without an expectation of something in return.
Agape love. That's a beautiful place to end, man. And Love, Period, is his first book. And brother, I'm so grateful, and I have so many other questions, man. I'd love to have you back on to discuss some other topics, but you hit it out of the park. And so Reverend Dr. Rudy Rasmus, co-pastor of St. John's Church in downtown Houston. The website is the Pastor Rudy Experience, pastorrudy.net. He's on Instagram as well. And I wanted to make sure I'm saying this right. Are you still doing free COVID-19 testing every other Wednesday? So every other Wednesday, what do people need to do to get tested?
We're doing most of those tests on our campus at 2019 Crawford and Gray in downtown Houston. But you can go to the Bread of Life Inc. Bread, BREAD of Life, LIFEINC.org. Bread of Life Inc.'s website, and the locations are all there from 1 week to the next. Because we're also moving around some too, but we have been able to help a whole lot of folk thanks to the BeyGood Foundation. And secondly, the Start Small LLC Foundation. A guy named Jack Dorsey, who founded Twitter, gave us a very generous donation at the beginning of the pandemic.
Nice.
And we're using that to touch lives.
Nice. Well, you have the credibility, man, to spend it the right way. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the BeyGood Foundation on the other side of the break. And so, brother, I just want to thank you. God bless you for what you do and what you mean to this city. You are underrated and underappreciated in my book, but thank you for joining this platform, man. And I look forward to having you back. God bless you, man.